It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson with Paddy Fitzsimons, Ian Ryan and Andy Bell for the next sort of 40 minutes or so, taking the opportunity with there not being a game this week to take stock of where we are. You might want to download the Anfield Wrap app, everything you need around Liverpool, and obviously looking ahead to the game against Ajax. Losing the weekend does give us the opportunity as to where this is. I'd love to be taking stock in a way of going, God, there's loads of stock instead. Is that a good thing or a bad thing to have a lot of stock? Text in if you're a shopkeeper and you've got stock news for me. But let's take stock. Ian Ryan, 9 points, -5 on City at this point. A heavy and frankly really rather embarrassing showing against Napoli in the Champions League. It feels worse than that reality, you know what I mean? It's one game gone in the Champions League, the hardest away game that you can lose at any time. It feels like more than -5 on City. It feels like fewer than 9 points. It actually feels worse than the reality, which is, in one sense, good. I mean, it might not be good for all of our well-being.
That's true. It does feel a lot worse, and I think you've almost got to keep checking the league table to make sure no one's made a mistake here. It is definitely 5 behind City and 6 behind Arsenal, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Because it does feel a lot worse. And I think it's because it's compounded by the nature of the games and how they've gone, and I think how poorly Liverpool have played. So I don't think there's many games where you're sitting there thinking, we've had hard lines there. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like, if anything, we might have a couple more points than what we should have had, because you look at that Newcastle game, for instance, and it was a great let-off, and it was great to get it done the way they got it done, but they didn't play well. And I think, everyone was kind of accepting of a draw was probably the fair result. So
the flip side of that, though, to be fair to them, is they've hit the post in injury time of 3 of the games that we're talking about here. Now, one of them is Newcastle, where it hits the underside of the bar and goes in. The other 2 are Arsenal and Fulham. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a bounce to the ball where they've actually got 6 more points. There's also a bounce to the ball where they've got 2 fewer points, and this is one of the reasons why they're fucking mad.
There is, and I know what you're saying about, they've hit the woodwork against Everton, and they've had the same thing against Fulham, where Henderson could almost win it for them at the end. Even the most ardent Liverpool fan, Neil, I think, would struggle to sit here and go, they deserve to win against Fulham. Or even the Derby game, listen, yeah, you could maybe paint a picture where they just edged it. But I think a draw was probably a fair result overall, because I just don't think the performance levels have been anywhere near the standard that we expect. And I think, unfortunately for some of these players, they will be judged against the very, very high standards that they've set. So they've amassed serious points totals over a number of seasons. They'll be judged against that. They've brought home the very biggest trophies. They'll be judged against that. They've delivered consistently high performances. They'll be judged against that, and rightly so. So when that falls below what we expect to see, of course there is going to be some finger pointing, and that's where we are at the minute. Liverpool need to improve, and need to improve quickly.
They need to improve quickly, Andy. The injury issues have been significant, possibly even verging on enormous in a short space of time, with 1 or 2 exceptions. The positive is it isn't like it was in 2020, 2021 when after Boxing Day, no one who played centre-half was coming back, and that had to just sort of be acknowledged at that point. So they've been significant. They could be worse. It is worth pointing that out, but still none of that, takes the edge off what Ian's saying there around the fact that the quality's not been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you look at it right now, and if it's not a full-blown crisis, it's certainly verging on it in terms of the injuries, in terms of the points we have. But you mentioned that we're only 5 points behind Man City, and, for me, forget Arsenal, Man City are the only team in town in business. I've always thought that. I've thought that for years, even when Chelsea were absolutely flying last year. And you look back and you mentioned 2021 there, where it was a full-blown injury crisis. It was a full-blown crisis in terms of how we were playing on the pitch. We had to completely adapt our game, completely different to what Klopp would ideally, and as coaching staff would ideally like to play. In that season, we still put a run together of 8 wins and 2 draws at the end of the season. So, we've been in worse times, and we've come up with far better runs than what we're on now. And with 5 points behind, over the next 10 games, City are bound to drop some points as well. So if we can just somehow get to the World Cup without dropping anything more, well, we're going to drop some more, but without falling even further behind, then I would still back us to regroup and adapt and come into it in that way. But I think tactically, a lot of the things we're doing differently this season in terms of the position of the number 8s, in terms of the position of the fullbacks, with everyone trying to get in between the lines that Salah and Diaz are leaving out, and with Firmino having a lot more space and things like that, I almost think how exposed we're leaving ourselves defensively if you've one or two players in there who aren't technically absolutely brilliant, I'd say maybe, like a Milner these days, even a Henderson at times when he comes in, and Gomez has looked a little bit ropey in the ball in the last few games, I think you cause yourself massive issues there. And the reason City can get so many players in between those lines and so many players in attacking areas is because they're all so technically brilliant on the ball, that they're so structured and organised. When they're broken against, they can counter press, and they can guard against the counter attack so easily. So I think even if there are 4 or 5 injuries, never mind a crisis, Liverpool will struggle in the way they're playing this season.
The other question, which the manager has been asked and sort of battered away, is about the idea of a bit of a hangover from last season, all the games and then everything. I'd sort of widen that out, Paddy, and I think it's worth dwelling on a minute. I will bring Andy's tactical point back in a second. But I do sort of wonder about a collective hangover, and I literally sort of ask, including us. I'm not just sort of focusing solely on the players, but after what went on in Paris as well, on top of everything else, I don't know. I do wonder, have wondered a couple of times over the course of the campaign exactly where everyone's head's at, and I do think it's everyone's head. I don't think it's just the physical aspects. I think it's where everyone's head's at, allowing for the fact that everyone's heads, including the whatever lads are on the pitch, may well all be in different places.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. Really, I think on the talk of the hangover from last season, I think a lot of people felt great coming out of the back of it with the parade and things, and people have referenced that to say, well, we had that big day all together where people got over it, and it was right, we go again now. But I think that's a fragile thing. I think it only takes one bad result, which is the Fulham one in the first game, for people to start then second guessing things and questioning things.
One bad half.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think I was glad of the break in pre-season, and the fact that it was a short one. For me, like personally, I liked it. It's been a lot longer. I wasn't ready for the footy to come back really, and I think more because from the football side of things, I when people were saying in the summer, we put a run together and we run away from City, we go into the World Cup with a lead. I struggle to see that. I know the year we win it, we race ahead of them, and that's our way home that year. We get a big lead on them, and that's the way. I struggle to see where they were dropping 6, 8, 9, 10 points before the World Cup. And I think for the players, I think that's a hard thing as well, isn't it? I think it's you do a season like that season where you're almost perfect, especially after Christmas, and then albeit you end up with 2 domestic cups, but that would feel to them. Ian mentioned before the standards they've set and the trophies they've won for Liverpool. That might have felt a bit like like they've let themselves down, like they've let us down, and ultimately not what they wanted. From January onwards, we were talking about 4 trophies. That's being hopeful. That's being that's expecting the best and a dream scenario. But they will have wanted one of them 2 big ones, and they were good enough to win one of them, and they've had hard lines in both. So I think when you have a start like you do, and Andy spoke there about we're only 5 behind City and staying as close as we can with everything that's happened. It's hard, but I really think they need to stop giving themselves these mountains to climb. What I struggled with last season was in the running. It's exciting and everything. You're close to another league title, but I really wish we could lead in one of these title races. And I'm not even thinking about the title race this season, but you think back to 18-19 from the running, from about 10 games out, we're a point behind. How long ago from last year are we a point behind them? I think mentally that's hard, hoping they drop a point, but you still got to do all this. I think any lead that they have on us at this point, and which could stretch more, because I'm not even sure the way we're playing at the minute we will be in the conversation for the title. I think it is tough on the mental.
When you say it's tough on the, so I think that for instance, the managers use phrases like mentality monsters. They got themselves into a bit of grief. The flip side of that in 2020, 2021, when it's not going well for them and they go the other way. But I think it's really interesting that you can only go to a certain type of well so many times, because I thought they would start the season on fire. I really did. I thought you're going to see what you saw in 1920 again here, where they're going to come out, and then you get, and what really made me really think that's the Community Shield, where they throw that performance in the Community Shield, and I'm like, God, these lads look ready. So I think I do in general take your point. They've shown an unbelievable amount of mental resilience, I would say, since the start of the 2017-18 season. A lot of these core players, so it is perfectly reasonable for that resilience to eventually at some point find itself a little bit fractured. What you do next in that scenario is really, really difficult, because you can't change all the lads. No. Even allowing for people's hobby horses who they wish didn't play for Liverpool anymore. You can't get rid of everyone. Yeah. And it's a lot of footballers here. So do you think it is just as simple as they just need to go back to first principles of try not to think about anything else, just deal with what's in front of you?
Yeah, I would. I mean, there's a conversation about a bigger picture in terms of, what's gone on in the summer, which I'm sure we can get onto later and things like that. But I think you can't praise them the last 3 or 4 years with how they've managed to do what they have, and then be shocked and surprised 4 or 5 years in when they can't just keep maintaining it. It's not a surprise to me. I mean, I didn't expect us to be as bad as we are, but watching us this season and seeing how they are, I'm not questioning the mentality for a second. I think there's been games where they haven't been at it and they haven't wanted it enough, and you can question it, you know, in certain scenarios in a game. You know, think of Old Trafford where you think, are they putting it in here or have they give up? But I just think what we've done, you know, since post-Kiev or even before that run to Kiev is such a high standard mentally against the toughest possible opposition when you've always got City in the background. But when you get 4 years in, and has it been refreshed enough in terms of quality first team players, I'm not so sure. There will be a slight burnout, and also you can't really, I don't think you can be too hard on them in terms of, you know, this is hard. This is really hard, and to expect them to go again when City look better and have added, and they're all human beings. You know, there's been reports how true they are, we don't know, that some of the first team players have been shocked at the lack of investment in terms of quality coming in. That doesn't surprise me in any workplace, in anything like that, when you think you're at the top and you're looking around and you're thinking, why aren't we adding? You know, when I was brought in, I got brought in with a couple of players. Why is this not getting better? I'm not too surprised we are where we are, to be honest.
I completely understand why people would completely dismiss this point because it's 6 games into the season, but I think it's very easy to forget just how much physically and maybe even more importantly emotionally and mentally Liverpool put into that January to June period last season, where they were going midweek weekend. On the face of it, didn't really have the squad for it or the quality for it, but they still played miles sort of above their level to get to that. And when people question their desire, and don't get me wrong, I did the exact same after Manchester United. I thought they were sort of afraid to go into tackles. I thought the crowd massively got in their heads in terms of, you know, if I go in for this 50-50 and I'll lose it, will this sort of give the crowd more of a lift? And I thought there was kind of an egotistical and vanity performance from Liverpool in that game. But the more I actually think about it, I think they just look absolutely knackered, and you know, they look a little bit sometimes like when we play 5-a-side for the first time in a while after like a month on the drink, and you can't get around the pitch, and that's a massive issue. I think tactically the midfield can't get around the pitch at the minute, and I think there's a couple of different reasons for that, which we can come on to a bit later on. But also when you've got the ball at your feet, you're doing mad things. You can be tired, have the ball at your feet, not have to run, and your actual quality is completely different. You know, you look at that game against Napoli, Salah has a chance which last season he would have taken down and finished in his sleep, and he doesn't even come close to controlling the ball. Alexander-Arnold has a couple of free kicks in wide areas where you think this is, you know, prime position for Alexander-Arnold. If he could place a free kick to put a delivery into the box here to get us a goal, and this is with Virgil and Matip and Nunez on the pitch, you know, tall players who can attack this ball, you know, and he's over hitting them. And it's not only the fact that they can't just get around it, they can't press and they can't counter press. When they've got the ball at their feet, they're doing mad things as well. And I think, you know, that's a major issue for me at the minute. I think, you know, their legs look like they've gone, but I don't understand why, because the technology that Liverpool have at their disposal should be flagging this up, you know, long in advance of this happening.
What I think's interesting, Ian, just to sort of flick your brain back, is when you'd have conversations in April about how side X or side Y might be on the beach. And what sort of occurred to me thinking about that is, even different to Manchester City, since 2017, Liverpool haven't had a week on the beach. City end the 1920 season, or well, I think that City from almost November in the 1920 season are on the beach, sort of, in that there isn't a feeling from their manager that he needs them to be at 100% every week, because as soon as they lose at Anfield, I think Guardiola, you know, with the greatest respect, I'm not like in the long run this might not be a bad thing, almost just sort of packs in. And just says, we'll just get the results we need to make sure that we finish a relatively creditable second. There's a really weird thing with this Liverpool side where since then, 17-18, it needs to confirm top 4 and was in a Champions League final. 18-19, it was going for 97 points and wins the Champions League. 19-20, there's an element of it post-COVID, but it's all a bit weird because we're talking post-COVID. 2021, theoretically the bad season, they need to win 8 of the last 10 in order to get there, so they're on it all the way through. And then there's last season, and I think that I think it is worth saying that for 5 years, practically every game they've played has really mattered, and I think that there is a toll that takes, I think, on you mentally and physically.
I think it's a good point. I think you pointed around City in that 1920 season. That's on the back of them winning domestic treble. in 18-19. So they go the distance in all of the domestic competitions. Now, for them, the following season, it might be, well, a little bit of the hunger and the fight is gone because they've just cleared up. Obviously, go in the quarter-final stage of the Champions League. Or it might be that they've pushed themselves to the point where they're all shattered physically and mentally. And I think they end up losing 9 games in the season that Liverpool win the league, something along those lines. So there maybe are some kind of parallels there. But I think saying, certainly for some players in our squad, that it's physical, I think it's letting them off the hook a little bit, if I'm being honest. I think I can take the mental points because I think there is something around just keep going and keep going and keep going. And in a lot of the seasons, you've fallen short by the narrowest of margins, as Paddy said, because you are up against this ridiculous team in Man City. So I think there may be something there, Neil, in the kind of mental side of it, because it can't be easy to kind of come that close on a number of occasions and just fall a little bit short. But I think the physical stuff, I'm not sure, because I'm seeing things happen in games 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm watching players watch situations develop and just not doing enough about it. And I think it's very easy to sometimes throw the physical thing and say, well, they'll be tired and stuff. I don't know. I mean, someone like Trent, for instance, who I have lauded on these shows, I think he's unbelievable. I think he's one of the best, you'd still class him as a young player, one of the best young players in world football. What I would say is there's times where I'm watching him and there just doesn't appear to be enough intensity, but I think you could level that at him a number of seasons, to be honest. But because he's so good going the other way, and because he does so many special things going the other way, you kind of let it slide a little bit. That's not to say he's a terrible defender. He's far better than what people ever give him credit for. He's not got an assist this season. He has got a goal, but he's not doing anywhere near what he was doing going the other way. And I think that's where, again, it comes under the microscope a little bit more. But that Napoli goal, the third one, you can't tell me he can't make an effort to get back in there. And the same at Old Trafford. I won't accept it. And there's other things as well. It's not just him. I'm seeing stuff from Virgil where all of a sudden he's massively exposed, but I'm seeing him make poor decisions as well. And maybe that's a mental thing, but I'm seeing him make poor decisions in game. And people aren't staying clear of Virgil anymore. They're having a go at him. They're attacking him. Now, Liverpool are facilitating some of that by being so open at times where one through ball and you are in on the back four. So I think it's probably more mental. Like if you look at the league stats last season in terms of games, Andy Robbo plays under 30 league games. Plays a few more in the Champions League and stuff, but it's under 50 games. There's only 6 players that play over 50 games, and one of them's left, Sadio Mane. Now, Jordan Henderson has been asked to go again and again and again, and I think in the midfield, you could maybe make an argument for saying a lot of those lads could be physically shattered because they're at a certain age now where we've asked them to go again for 4 to 5 years, and I think that potentially does take its toll on you. You know, Jordan's injured now, and I think he ends up having a decent season last year, but started really poorly in my opinion and hasn't been great this season. Fabinho looks shattered. He looks shattered mentally and physically. So I think there's almost this thing where I think for a few of them there maybe is a little bit of physical and mental tiredness. Maybe for others it's just mental, but then it's easy to kind of all just group them into one big thing.
Yeah, no, this is what I think. This is a dangerous thing, the grouping. I think that, and this is why I think it's a complicated conversation here, and it'll be complicated for the manager and his staff, because I think some might have taken the way last season ends up and bounced back into the first day of pre-season and gone, no, we're not standing for this again. And others might have been sort of going through the motions a bit like, fucking hell, that was hard. Others maybe physically feeling like, I'm an absolutely great Nick. Others might be thinking it was a long, hard season. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can't, and that's just 4 possible variables. And this is what I keep sort of coming back to, is I'm looking at, and then the context of that, you know, the idea of what Andy was driving at, that the manager, I think, has been changing it for longer than we think. I think he was beginning to change at the start of last season when he was playing Elliott, and then Elliott gets injured. I think there's a couple of games at the end of last season where you're able to say that's just 4-2-4. Mostly that, you know, where Naby Keita was used at times. That's just more 4-2-4 than it is anything else. So I think that's going on, but I don't think that's quite as pronounced as we necessarily think it is at the same time. My point is that all of these things, they are like tiny little ticks here and there, but I think they're adding up to something that, because there's a lot of cogs that aren't what they should be doing, and suddenly the watch is in pieces and it's on fire. I don't know, you said fire to a watch, but that's what's happening here. And I think that's part of the problem. So I think part of, for instance, when you're looking at the walking back thing, I think there's an element where they're told, if X is in that position and you're in that position, you need to be waiting to spring for a counter. But I was about to say, but this isn't spring for a counter time, because they're about to fucking score, boys. Yeah. All of us watching it can see they're about to score, and I think all these things, Liverpool working out the rhythm of how they're meant to start games, different players being, I think this is really complicated. I don't think it's just one question and one answer, if you see what I mean.
No, I think that's fair. And I think you point around, wanting to be able to break forward and pounce. I think that's right in certain instances. But, as the lads covered it on the half-time on BT, it was Ferdinand, Owen and Fowley. Other pros know when, someone's maybe not quite putting it into the level where you should be, because they've been there and done it, and they're lads who've got to the very top of the game. And I've seen a little bit of that going on, but I think it does almost spread like a bit of an illness, where if you're seeing one person maybe not quite doing it, it can spread a little bit, and before you know it, everyone's making mistakes and stuff. And listen, you don't want to bang these lads over the head too much, because they have been unbelievable in the main. And I don't want to come on these shows and have a go at certain footballers, because they've been brilliant. They've been nothing short of brilliant. And you'll always say, Neil, there are lads, and it does feel like that. And you do obviously want to get behind them, but at the same time, when you're seeing stuff go on, you can't come on and just fucking sugarcoat it. You've got to call it as you see it. And as I say, I've seen things this season that I don't particularly like. Now I think they'll get it right, because I think this manager will sort it out. I think he's proven that on a number of occasions when, as Andy said before, there's been adversity, and I think he's one who will manage the situation and he'll get us out of it. I think the other thing is, and you alluded to it before, we're also trying to change a lot as well on pitch in terms of structure of the team and stuff. And I think whilst you're trying to do some of that as well, it complicates matters even further. All of a sudden we seem to be asking the midfielders to do a little bit more. We're asking the fullbacks to do something slightly different, and the forwards are doing something slightly different again. And I'm looking at our phases of play, and every time I look at a phase of play, we seem to be outnumbered in every area of the pitch, whether it's defensively or in midfield or going forward. There always seems to be more of the opposition. So something about the balance and the structure of the team isn't quite right. But they've got a few days, only a few days, mind, but they have got a little bit of time to work on some stuff. So you're hoping maybe you see a reaction on Tuesday.
Well, that's my issue with it. I think changing a lot, which I think we have on the back of a short pre-season, and when you've got no time to train them on the pitch, is where I think you're seeing the biggest problems. You talked before, Ian, about people are getting at Van Dijk. You look at Trent, and then Neil referenced that there'll have been times in seasons gone by where you won't have even noticed that, because you're told, if this happens, you go there. It looks silly when we're playing as bad as we are. My problem with it all is why are they getting to the defence so easily? Listen, Van Dijk's not playing well at all. I'll defend him as much as anyone. He's not playing well at all. He's given away
no one's counter-pressing Paddy in the middle of the park.
Exactly. He's given away 2 penalties this season when he doesn't give away fouls. My thing on it is, a year or two ago, we weren't far off having conversations where people would come in and say, could play him on his own, or play midfielder next to him. Home games, away games. That's because no one's getting near them. He is brilliant. I don't doubt for a second he's brilliant at one-on-ones. I don't think it's a case of, people have figured out. So if you get at him now, you can't. He's just playing badly. If people want to get at him all day, all the best. For me, I think he's that good. The problem at the minute is when no one's playing well and they're getting at him all the time, and he's having a different partner next to him every week. I think that's where problems. The Trent thing, where I'm calmer about it, is what Neil said. I think this has been going on for a long time. I do think he's playing really badly. I just think people are noticing it more because they're getting at him all the time, and you slow any goal down, any chance down, you zoom right in on him. It looks worse. That's not excusing him, by the way. I think he has been shocking, and your point about him going forward. Listen, if he was getting assists in these games and things, you go, well, that's fair enough. I don't think he's the best defender in the world. He hasn't had to be, and we've won a lot with him there. I think about the counter-pressing thing, that's my big point about this new system change. I don't think it works. I really don't think it works. The reasons why, I think the players he's playing in them positions, the counterpoint to that is there's no one else. Yeah. He hasn't got much to choose.
But the counterpoint from that though is that he, as Andy said about the end of 2020, 2021, where we do what we do with Phillips and Williams at centre half, because we decide, well, we'll just do it a bit differently then, and we'll look after each other's mistakes. What I think's interesting is it doesn't look to me like we've gone, well, let's just make it work. Let's just do it a bit differently for a bit. It looks to me like we've very much gone, no, we stick with the thing that we've said that we're going to do from the start of the season. And that's where, the job is to get results with the footballers that you've got in front of you. It might be that he's going, well, it's been this bad, but to go back to the very start of the show, it's 9 points. Yeah, we've had the tough Champions League away game. It's only 5 behind City, etc., etc. It'll click, and then it'll have been worth it. But that's what I'm intrigued by, is that I don't think it, like, for instance, I don't think Fabinho has played well for a while now, in general. I don't think he's helped him. I think that when Henderson was playing at the start of the season, I don't think Henderson's been playing that well for a while now. I don't think he's helped him. Just sort of know what I mean in this. And I think that's, there's a couple of them where I'm back going, I just don't think you're helping them here, Gaffer. I don't think you're helping the lads out. I don't think you're helping Trent out. No. Whilst simultaneously, I think that Trent's been shocking, if you see what I mean.
No, I think that's why we have been as bad. I think at the point of, if you turn around and say, well, we're only 5 off City, other than Bournemouth, I don't think we've played well in a single game this season. I think all the way back to the start of the show, I think that's why it feels worse. I don't think we've played well. I don't think it's working. Right now, what I do want to see us go back to is solving the problems that are clearly in front of us. This isn't a back end of 2021. This is him clearly trying to stick with a system that I don't think works. I don't want to point out names and be harsh on the lad, but I mentioned on the Friday show a couple of weeks ago after United that I don't see why, other than injuries and what he's got in front of him, I don't see why Harvey Elliott's starting really for Liverpool. People have lauded him this season. Whatever you think about his individual performances, me personally, I think he's been all right. I don't think it's been anything to write home about. But I just don't think, put it this way, I don't think we would have ever signed that kind of player to play there. If you're saying he's a 10 and there's a double pivot behind him, he tries to cling on to him because of how good of a player he is, but we sell Coutinho in 2018 and you see how much better we are when you've got a functional midfield behind. Since then, we've not been linked with a number 10 since. We've not been linked with any kind of player. I'm all for evolving and things, but when you put a 19-year-old lad there to essentially sacrifice the whole right-hand side, like you said, Tente's playing shite, but Salah's not playing particularly well either. There's clearly a problem on that right-hand side, and there's also clearly a problem with Fabinho looking next to him going, any chance here, lads? I'm not saying Elliott's not putting it in and not getting back enough, but there's been an article going around yesterday. He's been dribble past more than any of our players in the league this season. He's clearly not great turning around and going back. I'm not saying he should be. He's had a season in the Championship playing the front three for Blackburn and 5 or 6 games last season playing in our midfield. I'm not expecting him to be great. I understand why he's had to play because of the options, but they've left themselves short in that sense. They've put themselves in a scenario where we have to now play him. He should be playing the Bournemouth at home in a game I thought he did look great in. They're the games he should be playing in. I thought there was a slight problem last season just before he gets injured in that Chelsea home game. I thought it looked off the balance. I thought they could get out his first half. He gets the injury. This sounds a bit harsh because he's just come back, but Inter Milan first half when he starts in the San Siro, I thought they were walking through us in that midfield. I thought we really struggled. You don't really see much of him after that. And then to go, like I referenced before, this short pre-season and with the lack of training time on the pitch, I think it's such a bold move to go, right, that's the change. And it clearly is, along with Núñez, which I'm sure we'll get onto, but you can't really point to that because he's not played enough. But Elliott and having that slightly further forward midfielder who the responsibility isn't on to go backwards is clearly the change, and I'm not sure it's the right decision.
Yeah, you guys have both mentioned issues within the midfield there, and in the previous part we talked about physical tiredness, mental tiredness, emotional tiredness that we've had off the back of last season. I think there is a slight tactical question in this as well. And everyone's mentioning the high line, and it's a lazy point, I think, because in general it wins us more points than it loses us. And there's no doubt about it, it is a risk that you do leave space in behind there that players can run into if they time their run right and if they time the pass right. But the rules of football literally mean that there's only so far you can squeeze the pitch. You can't be offside in your own half. So therefore, the maximum amount of pitch you can squeeze a game into is a half of football. And what I saw against Napoli, and this is where the first goal, the penalty, comes from, their two centre-halves literally drop back right behind the goalkeeper in possession. So that means that the front line have to sort of push a bit further if they want to put any pressure on the ball. The back line can't push any higher up the pitch because it can't go any higher than the halfway line. And all of a sudden you've got this, a lot more pitch for the midfield to have to cover for the likes of Milner, who isn't the quickest, he's getting on. Fabinho's never been the quickest. And Elliott, as much as I think he's probably one of our best counter-pressers in midfield, again, the reason he's not playing on the right wing is ultimately because he's not quick enough.
And you don't counter-press from a goal kick. It's not a counter-press situation.
Exactly. So, so these players, so I think there's been a couple of things in the midfield tactically where we've been breached a little bit compared to last season, because last season we were able to press the play into 3 stripes of the pitch, really. I specifically remember a game at Turf Moor where the game was pretty much played in a really tiny and long rectangle of the pitch, because opposition teams wanted to push up, so they didn't let the likes of Salah and Mane and Diaz in behind. And, you know, we were on the halfway line ourselves, whereas teams are almost like, right now, we're happy to defend in our own box if we have to. But in possession, we'll take it right in the byline here, and we leave all this space in our midfield that your defence can't push up and squeeze, and your attack, if they want to put any pressure on us, have to put us in here. And I think United, you see some like really well-worked, choreographed moves where it's clearly off the training ground. These midfielders aren't looking up, seeing a run and playing it off the cuff. They've been working on it. Rashford, Sancho, Elanga knew to get in behind the minute the ball went into the midfield, and the midfielders knew to do everything first time almost without looking. And then against Napoli, as I say, there was just so much space for them, and our midfield lads couldn't have done any more, really, I don't think. And as unpopular as it is, you know, Jordan Henderson would have made somewhat of a difference to that midfield on Wednesday night in terms of just buzzing around and getting places. And we mentioned Liverpool Evolve in 2021. I don't know whether it's something they want to do to drop the line a little bit deeper, or to maybe lay off the press a little bit, or press even more aggressively and just sort of throw caution to the wind. But we're kind of doing neither here nor there right now, and it's really exposing the midfielders, and I don't know if there's a lot more they can do. I think there's a question, get other lads in, get more physical lads in, get lads who can get about the pitch a bit more in. But for the lads we have right now, we're going to need to come up with a solution to it very, very quickly, to be honest.
I think that the idea that sides are doing something, I think you do get to see it with Napoli. I think United's a good example. I don't think they're the only ones. Mm-hmm. I think I keep looking at pass networks on StatsBomb post-match where the opposition's average positions are really, really deep. Napoli's average position, they didn't have a single lad in our half for average position on getting on the ball. But would we all think they dominated the game? Absolutely. And Ian, I think it is something for them to have to think about. I think it's something they'd have to think about if they bought 3 more midfielders, frankly, because I think the idea is, as Andy says, that opposition sides are effectively trying to make the pitch as big as possible, and they've realised the smart way to do that is to make it as big as possible back to their own goal. I think is something which we've not seen before, really. City tried it a couple of times against us. There's the 0-0 in 2018 when they are just taking goal kicks backwards onto their own byline and starting from there. But we've not really seen less good sides try and do it, and that's currently what we are seeing. I think a little bit of sides thinking we're gonna suck you in here, and I think that's something for Liverpool to think about, both with the personnel that they've got, but also just in general. We're just going to suck you in here. We're going to suck you in and suck you in and suck you in. And I think we've got to start making teams suffer a bit more, either for doing that or when we've got the ball, make them suffer a bit more then. Yeah,
I think that's really fair. You know, I think, you know, the manager will often use language around, you know, we want it to feel like the worst 90 minutes for the opposition. Apart from Bournemouth, I don't think it's felt like that for any team, really. I mean, the points, just to kind of touch back to the point around the mental and physical tiredness thing, no one looked tired against Bournemouth because it was all going for them. There was no adversity. It was all going for them, and they were all like, you know what, we'll push for 10. No one looked tired then. Everyone's pushing for fucking 10 goals. But all of a sudden, when it's tricky, when it's against them, that's when it's easy to go, I'm fucking shattered here. But when it's going for you, it feels different. So that's why I think it's the mental thing. What Liverpool aren't doing at the minute, Neil, they're controlling possession. They're not controlling space. There's fucking space everywhere. There's absolutely space everywhere. And teams are maybe being a little bit braver. But I think they also know that there's a chance that people aren't going to get close to them.
What I'm finding difficult, Ian, is there's space everywhere for them. And then you look up, and as you said before, it feels like they've got more men than us.
Yeah.
And I can't quite see at the minute where the reward of the risk-reward is. And I think that's suddenly what you're watching with Liverpool. And I think teams are picking the moments against Liverpool really well, firstly. And secondly, when they're picking the moments, they're executing it pretty well. And Liverpool aren't quite punishing them when it flips the other way. There's a number of times against Everton, for instance, where Everton have made a mess of this situation, but the ball does not end up in their net. You know, that does happen on a few occasions. And for me, that's the other thing here, is that there's nothing that alleviates pressure. You mentioned Bournemouth. There's nothing that alleviates pressure or tiredness like being ahead in a game.
Absolutely.
And effectively, Bournemouth's the only game we've been ahead in, because Newcastle doesn't count, because it was one kick-off, and even that I was worried about. I think that's one of the things that gets me here, is that because when it has broken for them to an extent, which, you know, it does do. For instance, Diaz is unlucky against Fulham. Yeah. You know, there's another one against Newcastle. All right, we're going to win the game, but Diaz we get through. He rounds the keeper, and we don't slot. That was at 0-0, and they go up the other end 3 minutes later and make it 1-0. And this is for me where, you know, there is the tactical stuff, and I think it's really, really valid. But at times, nothing makes the tactical stuff easy like being 1-0 up or 2-0 up, and they've spurned opportunities when they've come.
They have. I mean, putting the Bournemouth game to one side, which, you know, if you're game is here, makes that a bit unfair, but just putting it to one side for a minute, it doesn't feel like we are creating lots and lots of great chances, don't Neil? At least you might have the stats in front of you and stuff.
I'll pull something up now.
But it doesn't feel like we're creating loads of great chances. Maybe we are, but it doesn't feel like we are creating loads of great chances. Bournemouth aside, obviously, because that does feel like it's skewy because of the 9 goals and stuff.
And you also don't feel like these chances are coming in waves and patterns of play.
No.
You know, I think we've always missed chances. I think you can always say Mane and Salah, Firmino, they've always missed chances, but when you're creating another 2, 3, 4 before half time, that was my thing with the Everton game. As much as you can point to, oh, this was unlucky, that was unlucky, none of them chances were like we've built up a period of sustained pressure and you feel like it's coming. It was more just.
I mean, the Nunes shot. I mean, that's not a chance, is it?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That's not. If that goes in, that's not a Liverpool goal. We can't say, oh, we'll do that next week. Well, we've got to hope that we can ping one over the back four and he can get an half volley off.
Yeah.
Even the Salah one at the end, that it's the post. It's a nice move, but it does sort of come out of nothing. It manages to find its way to him. So that's my worry with it. And Neil might know more on the stats, but I agree. I don't think we are. I think that Diaz one, when he missed that against Newcastle, he rounds the keeper. I thought that was the chance. You should be thinking that at home to Newcastle. No. You should be thinking, right, the next one's coming soon, but there was nothing after that.
And Neil might say something now that just
no. What I'd say is that, you know, when they've been drawing this season, when games have been level this season, their expected goals is 5. They've only scored 2. But the flip side of that is that the chances that they've had, the XG, they've only had 3. Better than 0.2 XG, i.e. better than a 1 in 5 chance you scored. They've only created 3 opportunities in those instances, and I think that this is but they've had a lot of ball around opposition penalty areas, is what I'd say. And that's what I mean about composure. I don't just mean literally the final shot. I mean the idea of you built this play, as I say, you're trying to put some pressure on. Yeah. You're trying to create waves of chances and they're not coming. And I just don't think they're very calm in those situations when they've been level. And I think, you know, to only have scored literally 2 goals whilst drawing, one's after 3 minutes against Bournemouth and the other one's with, you know, 97 minutes on the clock against Newcastle, and not to be talking about waves of pressure. I think that this is the thing. When I think it's easy to talk about what they are and aren't doing out of possession, but actually talking about what they're doing when they're in possession and around the penalty area is as important, not least because one of the things that then does happen is they then lose the ball and they get counted on.
Yeah.
And that's where they're not, and this is back to suffering. You know, suffering, I think we think at times means dead physical, dead in your face, all of that. But actually what's not happening is, with the exception of Bournemouth, and to an extent Newcastle, although we all think it was exaggerated, you're not looking at defenders exhausted after 10 minutes of putting the body on the line over and over.
You know, how many times have we done shows where, and you always say this, you'll see lads just like hunched over a little bit, like praying for fucking time or kicking it into touch because they need a breather. You're not really seeing much of that. I mean, I remember Ancelotti saying something at the end of the Champions League final, and listen, not everyone's at Real Madrid who can do what they can do. But he did say something along the lines of, you know, we knew how Liverpool were going to play and therefore we know how to manage the game, really. Now, I'm not saying that's kind of, you know, in Jurgen's thinking or anything like that, but it does feel like maybe we've tried to evolve a little bit too much at times and we've overcomplicated a little bit.
Do you know, I think where we've ended up in all seriousness, and I think the tactical thing that is most concerning, because I've said this all the way through about that final, I don't think you accept the ball being in your penalty area that much if you're doing some sort of tactical masterclass. But the flip side is that maybe sides, both with and without the ball, as Andy's saying, have accepted. You play Liverpool, you're going to have to do loads of shit in your own penalty area. In a way that I think is counterintuitive to the way I see football. You know, I don't want anyone in my penalty area ever. But there's a way to keep them almost in a different bit of the penalty area. Keep them in the corners of the penalty area. You can block them in these areas. You can snuff them out there in the one hand, and on the other hand, you can play the ball across your own box and in your own box as well. You'll just have to be really brave to do it. I do wonder if that's a thing.
Maybe, but then I one of my worries about everything that's happened in the summer and what we're trying to do at the minute is I think a bit too much has been made of Paris and the other 2 finals. All this talk of, oh, we didn't score in any of the finals. 1, finals are tight games, they always are, and 2, we more than created enough chances in all of them 3 finals.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought far too much was made of it. Yeah. Sometimes, especially the European Cup final when the goalkeeper gets man of the match, I'm sorry, but it's just one of them. It happens. They had 1 chance, they scored it. We had about 5 or 6.
I agree with you.
I'm not saying they were quality chances, but that doesn't really happen in finals. The finals, you don't carve a team open and score. The tight games, it's a countdown to the worst thing happening or the best thing happening.
And Mendy makes one of the best saves I've ever seen, and the other one, like literally one of the best saves I've ever seen.
The FA Cup final with the post, Robertson back post. There's loads of times. It's just, I know there's 3 examples, so you say, oh, well, they can't all be one of them. I don't know. Finals just start. There's not, you know what I mean? They're not normal games, and I worry that. So I don't think it's enough of a thing to say, oh, I just don't think... I think if we'd have attacked... Again, I don't think it was our best attacking performance, but I think if we'd have attacked this season like we did first half in the European Cup final, we'd have beat a lot of these sides. But I take your point. I don't think we're attacking well. I don't think it's they've looked at an Ancelotti thing and thought, keep Liverpool in your penalty box and defend like that. I don't think we're making them work enough. Like Ian said, I don't think we're making them suffer enough. How used to are we to watching a Liverpool game, and for most of the game we're just camped in their half, and it's side to side, quick passing, and it'll come. We got a corner here and there, even when the corner's cleared, but because of how high the line is, we're keeping them boxed in. You're not really seeing that.
I tell you what, I got to the point in the derby where I didn't want another corner.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a few different things in terms of how we're going forward and how we're going backwards. Because sometimes in games, and when you watch them back, you actually think, we're getting the ball, like we're getting control of the ball in and around the penalty area, which is a hard thing to do, to retain the ball in the final third. A lot of teams panic and just try and get a shot away straight away and maybe don't create the best quality chance that they can create. But if you consider kind of the front three and the midfield too, which I heard you talking about some quotes, Neil, in midweek where he says that talking about 2 6s. In most of the games this season, the left-hand side of the midfield is playing more like a number 10 to me, like a number 6. The way Milner and Elliott line up in between the lines against Palace, you see Milner's average position, he's our most advanced player against Manchester United. And I think that's a long-term plan, because I think they see genuinely Carvalho and Elliott playing in those 2 midfield roles further down the line. But what happens there is you've got at least one of that.
Me and Paddy both shivered when you said that, just as a note.
Do you think? Do you not think that's long-term plan?
I think it might be, but I'm not having 2 tiny lads in a Liverpool midfield.
But I think...
I've got no interest in 2 tiny lads in a Liverpool midfield of 3.
I think half the thing they're going to do is just sort of... It's the idea of just playing with 2 defenders and 8 attackers and essentially being like that and having Virgil and Konate, and that's why they signed Konate ultimately. But I think half the problem is there's been one in that front, either 5 in terms of the 2 midfielders, and you can include the fullbacks in that, because I don't believe for 1 second that Jurgen Klopp sees those 2 as defenders. There's at least one who's technically deficient in that front 7, and that's a major issue if you want to retain the ball there. We don't have enough control going forward. I think there's a reason you see the best version of Firmino in the last 3 games pre-Napoli, because he was back to his not his old self, and maybe his self in the terms of the last year and a half. Don't want to be disrespectful to him, but I think that's because the wingers are so wide and he's a lot more space to operate in. The way Salah and Mane used to play made it very, very tight for Firmino, and therefore you could lose the ball, you can get it taken off you very easily. But then again, the problem is Firmino's never been the most clinical striker, even at his best for Liverpool. So I wonder if them playing out so wide and a little bit more space in the centre, I wonder if that'll be exposed by a Nunez or a Jota. But then going back the other way, I just think there's an issue because we don't have that ultimate control. And as I say, there's one player in there who's not technically good enough. Then we're able to be counter-attacked so easily.
But if I, for instance, though, you get your Elliott and Carvalho thing against Everton. Yeah. And I wasn't looking at them going, God, these lads are technically brilliant. No. If you know what I mean. And the ball won't stop moving, and etc. etc. Like, I think it's a hell of a risk to not carry levels of physicality in the middle of the park. So, because at some point you will lose the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, it's football. At some point you lose the ball, and at some point it goes the other way. And that's what I'm looking at is, I'm all for trying to be tricky and clever, but I'm not. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm not seeing that ball sort of recycle around that final third as I'd like, and I've also seen it cycle around that final third as I'd like, with a certain sort of different type of player in there as well, with the same Liverpool thing. And this is why you'd end up back to it is different. And it is leaving us more exposed. And there is a why in that. And this is back to the risk-reward thing, where at the minute it looks like it's all risk and no reward.
I mean, just on Paddy's point before about Elliott, I mean, I think he's been a little bit better than what Paddy said. But again, it's all about opinions and stuff. But I do take the point about balance. I do think it's, in certain games, it's probably upset them a little bit too much. What I would say is I think Elliott at times looks like he's got a decent relationship with Mohamed Salah, but that doesn't necessarily account for when it's going the other way. So I do think maybe there's a balance question in there, but I will keep coming back to they left themselves short. They did. And I know people might not like that conversation, but they've got themselves a midfield makeup where there's a lot of lads who are probably suffering a little bit physically because they've been asked to go so many times. Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago has always had problems anyway, but he's probably the wrong side of 30. And then there's a load of other lads who are just young footballers. Now, I don't think a team who are, again, potentially going to be on all fronts should be relying on an Elliott to play every single game. I just don't believe he should be.
That's my thing. I don't want to be harsh on the lad, and it can sound that way, but I just don't think he should be playing. I understand why he is, because there's no one else, but that's why I agree with you.
But I don't think it is because there's no one else.
I think the manager loves him, by the way. I think the manager loves him. And I think
that's why where I run out of a bit of sympathy, because I don't think it is because there's no one else. I think he'd be playing regardless.
I do. But what I'm saying is, when we had the conversation before about fixing the problem now, I think he could switch him out. My worry now is he's going to keep playing him because there's no one else. But that's what I would say, is if they'd signed other people, I still think he'd have gone with him, because he sees a lot more in them than I do. But I think you could say, we'll switch him out for someone else. At the minute, you haven't got that luxury.
But on that's why for me, all the way through the summer, I was of the view, I can see why they've concluded where they've concluded with the midfield. I'd quite like one more. But again, the other thing I kept saying was, but there's an Naby Keita question here, and no one's really getting to grips with it. And it looks to me like, Ian, we can speculate, and let's speculate wildly. I don't think he'll play for Liverpool again. And I don't think, and we'll have a conversation about how injured you do or don't think he is, but I don't think he'll play for Liverpool again. And I'm saying that one was visible in advance, and that one therefore leads to the signing of Artur at this point. But I think that was visible in advance. He only had 1 year left. It felt like it was the bottom of Liverpool's. They've only got 1 year left priority. In that, I don't think Chamberlain's a priority with only 1 year left, and elsewhere there was Salah, Mane, and Firmino. And I think that Firmino is even a bit more of a priority one way or the other. And that's why, but the other thing is, for me, and the thing that also when people said, so if you'd want one more, where would it be? The place I kept coming back to was attacking midfield. And the reason why is because if you're going to play like this, if you're choosing to do this, then don't have your only lad who you'd pick in that role be Harvey Elliott, which is sort of where they've ended up, and which I'm just surprised by. I don't quite see who else, but maybe it is Carvalho, but then at the start of the window, the manager was talking about 3. No one makes him shout from the rooftops in mid-July, I love me midfield options, I don't want anything else. Like, if he had genuine concerns, he could have chose to say nothing, and tried to deal with that. He's the one who goes out of his way to say this, which just, in hindsight now, just does me head in. Not in a, he had to turn up and say he was wrong thing, but in a, lad, if you had, I was saying I could understand why you have ended up where you have ended up, but I wasn't trumpeting it from the rooftops, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And all of that's just looks a little bit odd, because did they have no indication that the Keita situation was going to end up like this? Because they've not seemed like that's the case in the past when they've been doing stuff. They seemed risk averse, and they've ended in a risky position with Keita. And now, as I say, I don't think he'll play for us again.
So I think. Listen,
no Ajax builds happening here, is there?
You can't deny the manager has contradicted himself, because he says to you, Tammy,
he goes out of his way. I didn't ask him.
No, I know. He's front foot with the midfield stuff, it's fair to say. But then obviously it's a very different Jurgen Klopp a couple of months later, maybe even 6 weeks later, when he starts talking about the ownership and the lack of maybe taking a little bit of a risk. And listen, people who listen to this will know I've had a bit of a problem at times with the owners maybe not quite being brave enough and taking more of a risk in the market and stuff. I just think they left themselves very unbalanced in that midfield, because, as I said before, there's a lot of young players in there, and there's a lot of players who are coming towards what you'd say is probably the kind of, the latter stages, certainly in a Henderson and maybe a Thiago case, although Thiago has proven how important he is, because when he's out the team, Liverpool fail to function in the same way. The Naby Keita thing, Neil, is just, it blows my mind a little bit. And I know he has a decent season last season, but he still only plays 19 times in League and Champions League, so it's not that fucking good.
19 starts.
19 starts. So it's not amazing. Do you know what I mean? But it's decent compared to maybe what we've seen before. And I don't mind Naby. I think he's got the ability to have really strong performances. FA Cup semi-final always kind of is one that springs to mind. But I do find it hard that he's still at the club going into his 5th year, because I just don't think we've seen enough over his time to warrant him still being there. And this is where maybe Liverpool could have been a little bit more ruthless with the likes of Keita and Chamberlain, and just gone out and got upgrades maybe in year 2 or 3. Because
the funny thing about this is that I don't think the manager's very ruthless until the point at which he is absolutely. And I know, I've
heard you have this conversation,
and then and how it is like, don't even darken my door again. I think I could be wrong.
And this is where you don't know whether it becomes a financial issue, because he will always back his lads that he's got if he doesn't think he can get someone in that's better, and that's the unknown. We don't know whether he's had the opportunity to bring in someone better. So when he's talking to you about midfielders, he could be fucking bullshitting. I wasn't sitting there thinking he was, but he can lie if he chooses to.
He can, but it's more that he goes out of his way. For me, the risk thing comes back to, like, 3 lads, and there's a 4th one. 3 lads are the backbone of his 18-19 league winning team, 19-20 league winning team, Champions League winning team, and it's Matip, Wijnaldum and Robertson, and I don't think we buy any of them now.
That's an interesting point. But you know
and Shaqiri's in there as well. As much as I didn't like the signing and thought they should have added one more at that time, another attacking option, but we wouldn't buy Shaqiri now either.
No.
And that's what I think the risk averse thing is. We wouldn't buy any of those 4 players now. We'd say we've moved on from that sort of point, and we wouldn't buy any lads like that now. And that to me is the risk averse thing. We wouldn't just have a fucking wild card. We think this fella's sound and we can get more out of him than there's already there.
Well, there's also, so everyone talks about it's got to be the right player, and they'll say Virgil van Dijk. And I think there's a time and a place for waiting for the right player, and that absolutely fucking pays off. The Konate one, it pays off because he's a great player, but there is a high wire act there where that could have gone wrong, because if Liverpool don't get Champions League football, that's a problem, and they get it by playing inexperienced players and the goalkeeper popping up with a fucking header. So that was a bit of a balancing act. But people forget, if you go back to the signing of Sadio Mane, he wasn't first choice. He's down a list.
No, that was Salah.
Yeah, I'm going to come on to Salah now. So Mario Götze was first choice. They wanted him for 20 million, couldn't get him. They go and pay the 34 for Mane. Mohamed Salah, they'd scouted about 15 wide players. They wanted Draxler, Pulisic and Brandt were all mentioned. Klopp even goes out of his way and says, to get Mohamed Salah through the door, I think he praises Fallows and Edwards to say they really pushed his case. Yeah. He's on a list and he's somewhere down a list, and Liverpool end up getting him. So my point is, maybe it doesn't always have to be the perfect solution, and I almost feel like they've shifted to this bit where it's now got to be player A, the perfect scenario, or we don't pull the trigger. When, as you mentioned there, certain players, Wijnaldum, Matip, they probably weren't top of anyone's list.
Robertson was relegated.
Absolutely. So I think we've shifted in terms of what we've done from a transfer point of view as well, which has made us a little bit, again, you know, not quite as front foot where we could be, and it's created a bit of a problem, and I think we've seen it this summer.
I think in terms of what we're signing and the list of players who can come in and straight away fit into this Liverpool team, I almost think it's so narrow that they actually have to throw injuries to one side. So if a player's injury prone, that doesn't even get taken into consideration anymore, because the tactical way and how they are physically is paramount to everything. You know, we signed Konate with a sketchy injury record because he's probably only one of a few, never mind available centre-halves, just centre-halves that can come in and effectively play the way we're playing. Same with Arthur Melo. I'm not saying Arthur, by the way, it sounds ridiculous in my accent. It's the same with him. Because he's going to
call him Melo. You can call him Melo.
I'm calling him Melo, yeah, I am. But he comes in and, you know, he's probably one of only few players who can at least be functional in this, but his injury record's very sketchy as well. But you guys mentioned Harvey Elliott there, and I think you're being a little bit harsh. I think he's a young player who's going to have a dip in form, like literally every young player does.
I don't think he has had a dip in form.
I think he's played well.
He's playing really well.
I'm not saying he's having this right now, but I think a far greater issue is the left-hand side of midfield position when Thiago's not there, because I have no idea who can play there and play there effectively in the way we're wanting to play, with that control and getting control of the ball in the final third of the pitch. I think Elliott does everything really well. His counter-pressing, his quality on the ball. The only one question is,
could he not play left-hand side? It's mad that we've never seen him play left hand side. It's genuinely mad. If you've got a wide forward you want cutting in on the right hand on your right foot, and you've got a full back like Robertson, I think it's really weird we haven't looked at the lad who's left sided on the left.
I think there is an argument for that in this Liverpool team, and it's only this Liverpool team in this season, because previous to this, the left-hand side of midfield position was a conservative position, and Gini Wijnaldum sort of made it that, whether it was by design or whether he just fell into this way of he can play this role really well and there's nobody better at it.
I think it's just mad we've never literally looked at it.
But he's probably thinking Keita goes there if Thiago's not playing, but then you can't rely on Naby Keita. So,
and there's Artur now, but there's also Jones who does stuff there, and then he's got Milner as his backup, but he ends up playing Milner. We're not really going to talk much about Ajax, we're going to do it very quickly. I'm 70-30, Chelsea won't take place. It'd be good to have clarity on that soon. So Liverpool may well be getting out of dodge with the 9 points that they've got on the board from the games that they've played so far. Very quickly on Ajax, do you fancy us? Are you looking forward to it?
I'm not looking forward to it, no.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're playing very well, and so I think we'll win. I don't know if I'll enjoy it. But yeah, no, I do think we'll win. But yeah, I think I'm worried that might paper over some more cracks.
I mean, I'm all for. Can we paper over the cracks till the end of the season and be champions or something?
Oh no, that would be good, but I think there might be too many cracks by then and not enough paper.
I'm always into. I think whenever people used to say this to me, like the thing about a really good number 9 is it papers over a lot of cracks, and I'm like, I don't see why this is a problem. Why do people articulate this like it's a negative? Like if Salah and Darwin could see the way clear. I mean, Salah's only scored 6 in 27. Yeah. So if Salah and Darwin could see the way clear to between them knocking 60 goals in between now and the end of the campaign, I'll take all the fucking cracks you like. You looking forward to Ajax?
Not particularly. I'd like to see Thiago come in and play at least 70 minutes if he can do. If he does do that, I think we'll win the game. I think Matip comes back in as well. Front three stays the same. If we play that midfield, Fabinho, Thiago and Elliott, I think you see a drastically different midfield performance to what we've seen all season so far. So if we can get him in the pitch, and I'm assuming we can because he gets half an hour last week and there's a week and a day in between, isn't there? Or no, sorry, 6 days because we play Tuesday. So I'd like to think he can play at least 70, 75, and I think we'll win if he does.
I'm looking forward to it. I think gets me out of the house, so there's that. I think it's interesting because the talk before Napoli was that you could probably afford to lose that one, and I do kind of agree. You probably can. If you're going to lose one, that's probably the one, but it does not put the pressure on this one where you've got to win that one on Tuesday, because if you're suddenly on 0 points or you're on a point, then it does become increasingly a pressurised situation where you've then got the back-to-back with Rangers, and Liverpool are far better than Rangers, but those games could be something that you don't want quite them to be, in terms of they'll build up into the Battle of Britain and all that
you need to be able to relax going to their gaff.
Yeah.
You need to be able to say
it's not a given there, don't
you've got to go into that one feeling like a point's all right, if you know what I mean, and that's the likelier route to getting 3. If we turn them into Champions League games away from home, if we turn it into Everton effectively, then we'll feel more stress. I think we've got to be able to go into it relaxed. So I agree with you, we've got to win Tuesday.
So I think that then does become a pressurised situation where you've got to do the business on Tuesday. So Liverpool at some point have got to start scoring in games first, and I know they do it against Bournemouth, but it's got to be more often than that. They can't afford to be going behind.
They scored a lot against Bournemouth first.
Maybe they've given them all the fucking goals well, but to go behind again would, you'd feel like it might get a little bit, certainly the stadium will probably become a little bit uncomfortable, certainly if it's second half and they score and that's the leading goal. So a decent start, and that doesn't have to be a fast start or when it's all frantic and stuff and people are running around like lunatics. It just needs to be a good start where you're looking like you're solid, you're compact, but actually you're attacking with purpose as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Neil. I think they will win this one.
Marvellous. Thank you very much to Andy, to Paddy and to Ian. It's been the Anfield Wrap this week.